Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, head coach at Transformation Academy. From seasoned experts sharing their hard-earned wisdom to rising stars navigating their journey, every episode uncovers the stories, strategies, and lessons behind what it takes to create massive impact and income as a coach. This show is brought to you by Transformation Academy and the Impact Coaching Collective. If you're ready to be inspired, take action, and build the coaching business of your dreams, well, then you are in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. This is episode number 77 with Kumari Mullin, and I love this conversation so much. I feel like Kumari is such an authentic, beautiful soul, and it was such a treat to get to uncover how someone can go from being a lawyer, being so logically minded, to hearing a call, trusting the call, taking massive inspired action on the call, and really just following what her soul came here to do as a healer and now a coach. So if you are someone who has ever felt like coaching or being of service or following your intuition is something that you just weren't taught growing up, it's like this new thing that you have to try on, then this conversation is probably for you. If you're someone who likes to deepen your sensitivities and your gifts for your clients, then this conversation is for you. I won't spoil any more of it. Please welcome to the show, the one and only Kumari Mullin. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I am so excited to have with me today Kumari Mullin. Kumari has such an interesting story. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for inviting me. I'm really thrilled.
Yeah. So before we get into your why, I want to know what started it all for you way back in the day. I've read a little bit about your story, but we'll give the brand new listeners an insight into your world. But before then, how long have you been in the TA family?
Officially as an instructor, I have been in a little over a year, but amazing. I met Natalie and Joelle. They came to an event of mine, actually, one of my biggest events ever, with Dr. Emoto, the water crystal researcher. Yeah, we convinced him to come to the west coast of Florida when the Gulf oil spill happened. And the animals were impacted. The water was it was just a huge, huge mess. So a friend who was a student of his hooked us both up and said, I'd like him to do a blessing for the waters and you can do a blessing for the animals, because I've done a lot of work with animal communication and healing. And so we did this huge event, and Natalie and Joelle were just kicking off their Transformation magazine. I was one of their first big articles.
Wow.
So
cool.
Was there when it really all began.
Yeah, seriously, you're an OG, as I like to say.
Right.
So I want to get back to the animal healing, animal communication piece. So we're going to put a pin in that because I'm very interested. But before we get there, what's that?
Yeah, that can go for everybody wants to hear all about that. But
of course, especially if you have animals. I'm very interested. But before that, just tell me, why coaching? How did you find yourself here? Why are we talking today? What's your motivating, driving factor?
Well, Kimberly, I never wanted to be a coach. I don't relate at all. I mean, here's how it all happened. I was an attorney when my father died of cancer very suddenly. He was only 60. And I was at legal aid with a colleague who had a picture of a meditation master. And I was not at all interested until my dad died. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I need to find some answers, about life and death and suffering. And I really had this strong desire to ease suffering. So I took a Reiki class, even though I didn't believe in it. I told people it's not logical.
Oh, I love this already.
So that was me saying it's not logical. And then I find myself, meditating with an Indian guru and in a Reiki class, never having Reiki and not really believing in it. And in that class, I got a downloaded message that this was my path to be a healer. And I went, great. I haven't even hardly become a lawyer yet after going to school at night and paying $100,000 in student loan debt. I'm like, I've been a lawyer less than I was a law student, and now I'm jumping ship. But I did. I jumped ship and I just dove in, and it was a very rocky road for a very long time. So I considered myself a healer I was a longtime meditator. After many years, became a Reiki master so I could teach and empower people. But I hit a wall. And the wall was, I was doing a lot of animal communication sessions, and that was building. But I was getting this call to teach more and more. And I couldn't restructure from the one-to-one, hourly. Every time I taught a 2 or 3 day retreat, I come home to 5 emergencies. My horse is dying, my dog is dying. I remember being in tears that I couldn't manage it. So every time I would meditate, I'd get, there's a whole new structure, but I couldn't figure it out. I didn't have the bandwidth to figure out how to restructure my whole business and my whole offerings. And I wanted to go deeper and free up time to teach. So a friend, she was actually an accountability friend. We had done one online coaching course together, and it did get me started online. It helped me set up systems and stuff to be in business, but I wasn't coaching, and then she had a bring a friend ticket for $50, one of those.
Yes.
And I jumped on a plane with the bring a friend, and I jumped in to the tune of, I don't know, $20,000. I was like, how did it happen from $50 to, but I met my next mentor. And
who was it, if you don't mind me asking?
Kendall Summerhawk.
Okay. When was this?
Highly intuitive. Oh, probably 10 or 12 years ago now. Okay. And I did 3 beautiful years with her, and I still use lots of tools she gave me, but mostly she gave me another vision how I could manage my offerings, my service, take people deeper, have more time off, and finally really teach and have the bandwidth to do that. So she helped me enormously. I also raised my rates. I, worked on my prosperity consciousness, all the things that were drowning me at the time that I need to work on. So she was a great money mindset.
I love it. So just to recap, the process that I heard is we get the call, we answer the call, even if we don't understand the call, even if we don't believe in the call, we take messy, massive, inspired action. We find an expander or a mentor to really help us light the way down the path and know how and when and if we're still on the path. And we just keep staying the course. Did I get it right?
You got it right. And I love the messy, massive piece. That was me. Very messy, very massive. And I do try to mentor my students that they don't have to do what I did, jump off the cliff many, many times. There's better ways to do it than that, but I didn't know of any at the time. So
yeah. So how did you go from this doesn't make any sense, I am a non-believer, this is not logical at all, to I'm fully bought in?
I had
what was that transition
experience, off the charts direct experience. So I even tell my clients, please don't believe in something before you have direct experience, but get to 51%. Maybe this could work. Maybe this is possible. Maybe I could feel better or have some healing happen or have some prosperity happen or whatever the blockage is. And 51% I can work with because that's an open door. But I don't want somebody to believe in something like a faith. It's not a faith healing or anything. It's the truth of the universe, which is we're all energy. And there was a brilliant gentleman in Japan who opened the door to be able to help us install a channel or open an existing channel really to hook up to more universal energy rather than just our own. So
is that Emoto?
No, this is Dr. Usui actually, who founded Reiki, modern day Reiki.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. Okay. How do you spell Usui?
Usui. And he was a martial artist and a Zen master and all sorts of things. He was highly trained in many of the Eastern arts. And so someone challenged him in his class. One of his students challenged him and said, do you believe in the healings of Jesus Christ and Buddha? Do you believe healing is possible? And he said, absolutely. And the student said, how come you and nobody else is doing it? The question that lit a whole journey. So that's
when he was like, maybe I should try.
Maybe I should find out. Why is anyone doing it? And can they empower others? And that's what I love about Reiki. I never really wanted to be a healer. But I saw that if I could be empowered, having lawyer mind, to all of a sudden opening my channels to healing and witnessing many magical moments with people, I thought this could change everybody's lives if they want to try it. So yeah.
I love that. This conversation is so timely, as most interviews often are, because the TA family has people from all walks of life, all religious backgrounds, all sorts of belief systems. And there's a lot of people in this community who would identify as Christians and really believe what's in the Bible. And I'm seeing a big revival happening right now in our collective, where people who once sought spirituality or maybe something that was not religion are actually refinding themselves back inside the church. And I'm trying to keep holding the vision, I am holding the vision of bridging that gap, helping people to see, because this is my belief system, I will own that, see that so much of what we appreciate inside of a spiritual container is very much in line with the teachings of Jesus. And
It feels that way to me.
Totally. So how, and we're getting a little off track here, but I kind of love it. How do you communicate the overlap to people who are saying Reiki or channeling or things like that are demonic? They are not of Christ. What, do you have a response to something like that?
I do, and it's really tailored to the moment. I don't have a set thing I say, because it's really about where that person is at. If they're in fear for their own safety and security, as they open their inner channels up, I say, call in Christ. I work with him as well. So ask to be protected, or if this is in alignment with you. I had one woman over the years who was afraid. But she had just been to a demonic, she opened the door and went to something called demons and witches. And I said, why would you go to that?
It literally has a demon in it.
Like, what were you thinking? You just don't do that. So
That's so funny.
She didn't say anything, but I could feel her energy wasn't ready. So I started speaking. I said, there's someone in the room who's not feeling okay with this, and it's okay. So what I ended up saying to her, I said, may I ask, are you Christian? And she said, yes. I said, then use Jesus, please. Let's both pray to him that if this is in alignment for you, and if this is right for you, that he will bless this, as I already feel the blessing, but it's for you to feel, and ask for any protection, anything you need, put him in the space, call him in. And I totally believe that that's what helped her make the decision to stay. So I don't work against anyone, in their belief system. It's just, I think that any kind of power that we call power or gift or whatever you say, I believe we all have innate healing abilities, and we've just shut it down because we're so enamored with the logical mind. Like, I was, that's not logical. But I think we're so much bigger than that. And it's not really trampling on the Bible so much as it is trampling on people's interpretation of the Bible, because didn't Jesus say something like, this too and much more will you do? And I remember early on,
I was trying to remember that quote and I couldn't remember it. I literally just came through you to me. Thank you.
Well, he is my main guide, just so you know. And I was raised Catholic, and I left the church because I found it so limiting in these kind of ways, and these rules and things that felt really more man-made than from. So I truly believe that awakening our compassionate heart and our healing abilities and are bringing us closer to God, not farther.
Yeah.
I don't know where that demonic thing comes in for people. They just are afraid, I guess. But to judge it as it has to be on this side of the fence, not on this, to me, it's way more, it brings me closer to a God consciousness than I ever have been in my life when I was in the church every day. Every day of my upbringing, I was in church.
Wow.
Catholic school all the way to college.
Wow. So yeah, I resonate a lot with that perspective. You mentioned a couple times your intuitive powers. How did you bring those online? What do you do to nurture them? And what does that even mean for you?
Well, It's interesting you ask, because just today, Transformation Academy launched my latest Enlightened Empath course. And the sensitives and the empaths, many of them, I'm sure, are in this community, because we all have deep compassion for others. We wouldn't be drawn to be coaches and healers and conscious leaders. We have a gift that can sometimes feel like a curse, right? It feels overwhelming to be so aware and so feeling of other people's stuff and energy, especially when it's not so nice energy. And I forget the question. Where did I bring? Oh, opening up the.
How did you bring it online? Yeah, and how do you nurture it?
Sensitivity is already like a tuning fork or a lightning rod to those abilities of expanded perception. Extra senses, but I think they're just an expansion of what we're all supposed to have open to us. And so I think more than bringing them on board, I got rid of the things that blocked it, the beliefs and the concepts and the limited way of thinking, and that opened up. And then walking, toward the crumb, I would be like the intuition. It's like you get a crumb, right? Follow this little crumb. And the more you trust and follow the crumb, whatever that is, stop here because I don't know why, just stop here. And it turns out there was an accident ahead, or all of those inspirations or gut feelings that have kept us safe or guided us to a good opportunity or something. So you start putting the breadcrumbs in front of each other, and we call it intuition, but it's really moment to moment listening, tuning in, and trusting of what's being said. And it's that the course, one of the things that happens is I help people create stronger boundaries, so we're getting less outside noise. I'm doing this with my hand. You can't see it. Less outside noise, and able to tune in better to our stream, our own wisdom. So I think it always is there, but we have a lot of noise in our space.
Yeah. I tell this story in my TEDx talk about an ex-boyfriend of mine that I met on the internet when I was in high school. So like many, many moons ago. And we broke up when I got to college, and it wasn't a great breakup. And I thought about it often for 10 years. And I would have this recurring dream for 10 years. This part I did not tell in the TEDx. So if anyone's listening to this, this is not in the TEDx, but I would have this recurring dream for 10 years of us reconnecting and just like having peace and it being so loving. 10 years later, I found myself in his city for a conference, and I looked him up, and I had to like really look because he doesn't have a web presence. And I was able to find out like where he worked. And I was like, well, I can't get his number. He doesn't have social media. Like, this is my only opportunity, is to just show up like a crazy pants to his work. But I just knew in my gut that it was going to be fine. Like, any stories I had about what other people would think about it, it was just like, I don't care. Like, I just know this is going to work. And that's sort of the point of the story in the TEDx talk. But I had this dream for 10 years about what he would look like, what he would drive, what we would say. And then on that day, everything was exactly that, like to a T. And then I never had the dream again. And I'm curious, like, how can other people who are listening, maybe who have had similar things like premonitions or a knowing feeling, how do we like dial that up? How do we apply that and really stoke it?
Really, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but literally I just created this course to do just that. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
You sell that course.
All of the tools that have helped me are in this course. They've helped me both tune out everybody else so I could really be clear about what was me and what was everyone else. And so that's the first step, is we got to clean out the energetic closet, so that we can start feeling more trusting of our embodied wisdom, the gut sensations, or the heart twinge, or the vision that comes, or the dream. All of these are ways that our intuition is trying to speak to us, but we're too busy minded, which is why meditation helps as well. We're too busy minded to listen in. It's like our radio is just switching stations all the time. We have to stay in our own station long enough. So the energy tools for me that has been the path. It's not a trick. It's more a practice of energy hygiene, you know, clearing out everybody else's stuff so that our alignment is to our own self and our own inner wisdom. And we can begin to trust that, oh, this is what truth feels like in my body and my heart. This is what a yes and a no feels like in my mind, you know, when you ask a question. So there's a lot of clearing first to open the gates. And then there's energy tools that help raise the vibrational consciousness. And that is at the very end, there's a tool that just took me to a whole nother level of manifesting from my intentions, just because I'm just in a higher vibrational energy than all the things you want that live there, you know, peace, joy, bliss, that's all in the high frequency. So raising our energy levels after we clear is really key. So it's a many step process, but they're all in that one course. I love
it. And we'll definitely have the link to the course in the show notes for this episode.
I'm really interested. Am I over delivering and overdoing? Because I'm like putting all the things I want people to have in this one course. And I said, you know, empaths over deliver and overdo. So maybe I'm out of balance here, but I want to add more. I want to add more. She goes, no, go for it, Kumari. I think it's beautiful. And really, what's the word? Not jam-packed, but really rich and full. And yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I'm curious what your relationship with social media is, given the energetic boundaries that we've just been talking about.
That's a really broad question, my dear. I didn't love it for a very long time. You know, I'm a bit older than you, and it still feels like I'm a new kid on the block with it. I used to not ever want to be seen. I had a terrible fear about photos. Like, there's no photos of me as a child. I would run from the cameras. And I later found out this was in alignment with a lot of Native American ideas about, and shaman ideas about, I don't know, the spirit being captured in the I didn't have those thoughts. It just felt familiar to me that this might not be so good. And a lot of it was just fear of visibility, you know, just being shy. I'm really extremely shy. Not in this moment with you, but in general, being out there. So it took me a really long time to embrace any little bit of social media. And if you're referring to like opening the gates to all the controversy, I'm pretty good about, I read gardening groups, you know, at night. I learned about how to grow my pineapples better. And
well,
it's like you have to really, really be careful what you put in, because, you know, I do keep up with current events. I have made a commitment during these troubled times that we're in to try and stay aware. But I was 10 years, I lived in a spiritual community. I had no media, you know, I had no TV, I had no radio. I chanted, I meditated, and I worked and listened to spiritual talks. Probably 6 hours a day, I did practices. So I've had periods of time where I've just put the world, you know, outside of me. I'm not that way anymore. Because I think right now it's just time for me to be more aware of the day to day, but I really limit it so that I don't, and I can feel when I can feel my limit. I get a piece of information, and for me, it's about saying a prayer or an intention for that to resolve, you know, but not staying in it.
It's beautiful.
Making it part of my world. Was that where you were going with social media? And
I think just
understand. Yeah, it's important.
Right. And I'm thinking, you know, there are some apps where you have a bit more control over what you're shown, and some where you really don't. Like, you barely see the stuff from the people that you do follow. Most of it's suggested to you or ads or whatever. And so just really being mindful about, when I spend X amount of time on this platform, how do I feel? Do I feel like my energy is dispersed and it's arduous to call it back to me? Or do I feel centered? Like, just having the loving self-awareness and then the intention to make necessary shifts.
Yeah, we have to be really mindful these days because we're infiltrated with so much information. I mean, we're just
Yeah.
on information overload for much of
Yeah.
the time. So that's the challenge I notice in my Reiki classes. I teach a live component to the online piece with Transformation Academy, and they sometimes can't sit still, and we're doing initiations and transmissions of energy, and I'm like, wow. And I can sit like, I can do 3 and 5 day retreats, not moving hardly. And I notice so many people have difficulty just being present, just sitting still, just, being,
Yeah. It's
uh,
a wiring and
it,
a
and
rewiring
we're being
to
trained
undo
for
it.
ADD, we're being trained to have these bite-sized pieces of information. And I dove into the neuroscience of sensitives and empaths, and we're actually wired to hold our focus open longer, which is why we can go deeper and why we're such good listeners. But it also means we can't tune out as easily.
Yeah.
So maybe just saying that will get people to be like, oh, I have to be a better monitor of my open wired system because that's taking in more than the average. Like, I can't talk to my husband and have the TV on at the same time.
Yeah.
I say,
If I'm in a restaurant
pick
and there's
one
people
channel.
talking behind, yeah.
I decide, and this is a decision too. I learned how to repress and suppress. Growing up as a kid, I learned how to suppress all my feelings. So we all learn ways to manage it, but they're not healthy. So
Right.
I open that back up through all the spiritual meditation practices and healing practices. And I'm like, I'm not shutting that down for anybody, but I have to manage my environment now a lot more.
Yeah. What are some other ways that you do manage the environment?
Well, noise levels is one. Focus is one focus at a time, one conversation at a time, not multiple things happening in all the space. Or I just leave. If that's going on in the shared space, I'll just have to go in a quiet room. And that's something I've learned to give myself. I used to judge myself. For instance, I go shopping with my husband. He'd come home, be unpacking and ready to cook and plan it. And he'd go, 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 go. And I'm like, I just was out for 2 hours. I need a chill break. And I'll just say, I'm going to go in the bedroom, sit down for a minute, listen to some music or something quiet. And then usually it takes 10 or 15 minutes, but I give myself that grace now. Whereas before I would judge myself like, why do you need that? You shouldn't need a break after just one outing or one, but my system does need a break. And
I very much relate to that.
Yeah. The more I give myself that grace to take a little mini break, then I'm restored. Then I can go back and say, okay. And I had to learn how to ask for that too. I'm married to somebody who doesn't always feel all those ways, and he's got very different energy than mine, and he's amazing, but he wouldn't always understand it. And I think I was asking for it in a kind of defensive way. I was setting my boundaries in a little bit of an aggressive way because they had been trampled on for so long, and it wasn't his fault, but I was learning how to reset them. And I think a lot of us sensitives end up being a bit assertive aggressive when we finally figure out what we need. And we're like, leave me alone, damn it. Instead of, honey, this is a new thing for me, but I'm learning this. I do better when this happens, when I can give myself a 10-minute break, and then I'll meet you back in the kitchen for the next round. And, it just took me really too long to figure that scenario out. But
I feel like there have been, maybe hundreds of times now where I feel like I'm a crazy person because I'm like, it is so loud, or that thing is so loud, or it's just like, it's like assaulting my senses, and everyone else seems fine.
Yeah, that is that's the number one definition of a highly sensitive person. It's the sensitivity to the sound. Smell is also, some people are really offended by strong smells.
I'm like, something is rotting in the fridge, and all my roommates at the time were like, I don't smell anything. And I'm like, no, it's really bad.
That opened up for me when I became a Reiki master. I did not have that, but it actually opened the very day I had the initiation. And all of a sudden I could smell everything. And I thought, oh my gosh, There's way more bad smells than good smells. So I plant all the good smelling flowers around my house so that I'm always having the good smells.
That is so funny.
Sound, smell, and then lighting really can be disruptive to sensitives as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is so validating. I have, my mom, other friends who just love a fluorescent light. They want the whole house to feel like a hospital, and I'm dying inside when that is the case.
Because it's flickering, right? There's a flicker to it. And if your bandwidth is so much more open, then you're getting overstimulated by things because you're other people are just saying they tune out. They just somehow their wiring in their brain allows their sensory system to tune out more. And we stay open longer. That was one of the most thrilling things I discovered in the neuroscience when I did the course. I was like, well, that's a new one. And that will help a lot of people understand I'm just wired differently. It's not a weakness. It's not a curse. I'm just wired differently. And I need to, maintain and manage that a little better and ask for that, but
we talked about this being like a blessing and a curse, being an empath or a highly sensitive person. And I have found in my personal relationships a lot that people are really allured by my capacity to see them. And then they are uncomfortable by it because it's very confronting. They're like, I don't want to see that much about myself. So I'm curious if you've experienced that or how you've navigated that.
Well, personally, I had this empath quality of being really compassionate. So I was a great listener. Everybody just knew. It was like my light was always on, therapist is in or something on a bus and at the stage, it was just, I'm like, how do they find me? I must have some blinker. So that was happening. But then in relationships, I tend to see people like at their best. I see potential and I really see it. I mean, it's real to me what somebody's potential is and what their gifts are. But if someone's really not living them, I kind of denied that piece. So I kind of had to learn to be a lot more discerning in relationships because I was so leaning things in the positive. Let's be positive. I see this person is really not so bad, even though they're horribly mean to everybody. They really have a kind heart somewhere in there, I mean, I just was making excuses for a lot of bad behaviors. And
I
right?
very much relate. Do you know Enneagram at all?
I did do it. A good friend of mine was really into it years ago. I'm a 9 and I forget what that all means.
Okay. Peacemaker.
Yes, exactly what my mom called me growing up. And I used to think, oh, that's really kind of cool. But now I also know as a sensitive, it's also to manage. There's no more high priority than creating peace for me. So it wasn't just about peace in the world and in the family. It was like, so I can breathe, so.
Yeah, it's a survival technique.
It's a survival technique as well as a gift.
Yeah.
So definitely, what were you going to say about Enneagram?
I'm a 7 and 7 is like the one number that doesn't see their shadow as a shadow, and the shadow of a 7 in addition to being addictive and gluttonous, the 7 is overly optimistic.
Yeah,
they only see the best often and they don't want to see the negative, and so
I really didn't. Yeah, I wasn't a 7. I could feel that. I made a choice, early on. That's just how I was wanting to be and wanting to see people. And that's why animals love me. I just saw the best in everything. And my learning curve was actually to see all of it. And so I had to become discerning. I learned to be a counselor. I was a director of a family preservation program for a while. And I could uplift people, but I had to see them clearly. Like I had to know if there was danger in the household before I sent a therapist out, or things like that. I had to get real about some things. So that's been my journey. I think we come in really with stars in our eyes in a little bit, and then there's a balancing out. So
totally. I mean, in anything, right?
Yeah.
Relationships, being a parent, getting married, all the things. I'm curious.
All the things.
The animals. Take me back to the animals. How did you realize that this was a gift you had? How did you start implementing it as a practice?
It literally, they just came. It's going to sound corny, like, they just showed up in my practice. I was a healer back then, not a coach. And so I was doing Reiki and energy healings and meditations, but mostly with people. And people started bringing their animals to me. They said, well, if you help my blood pressure, my dog has kidney issues. Can you help? They started getting it before I did. Yeah. And I thought, well, energy is energy and healing is healing. So I'm sure it'll work. But they started bringing them to me, and no one ever, I never studied it. But the more I began to be aware of subtle energy, like when you're flowing Reiki, it's coming in through your universe, through you, and then to the person. And then the person's body is receiving this energy, and things are either flowing or blocking or slightly in between the two, or, and you start noticing subtle energy flowing, blockages, stagnant. And then when I would feel into that, I could feel emotions. I can discern this energy feels like sadness versus this feels like grief. And this feels like resentment versus this feels like raging, ranting like a rage. So I started noticing the subtle vibrational differences between things. Well, that's the same for animals. They're holding on to past pain stories that may have made them afraid, or other misunderstandings in their life. Some not so mental, it's more held in the heart. They feel sad, or they feel scared, or they don't feel valued, or whatever is their story. And sure enough, with the loving Reiki energy, they feel and they let go so much faster than humans. So they heal much faster because they don't have that loop-de-loop story going, but you're this, you're this, you're this. They
no identity.
No ego identity to slow down. So once they accept truth and love and light as truth, then they flow that right through their systems, and healing happens way faster than people. And then the intuition was the same, that the main ways that people are holding on to the past and to hurt and to old patterns and wounds, it's not different for them, but they don't have as much story, holding on to it when you're allowing them to let it go. So they choose letting go much quicker than we do.
Would you say that you offer or offered at some point animal mediumship or healing?
They call it, I called myself an animal mystic for a long time, because I was actually connecting with their soul information, not just their body information. It was, and I didn't know that was what I was doing was different than a lot of people. But I was on another radio show for years, and the founder there said, it was called World Puja Network. And she said, I'm a soul communicator. She goes, the level of communication that you're giving about my animal and myself is like soul level. It's got the physical, the mental, emotional, and the soul. So people call it animal communication now, generally speaking. But I always did healing while I'm communicating. So it was always doubled up on, I'm not just talking about they have a kidney blockage. I'm actually shifting it while I'm saying it. So it's kind of very dynamic.
And do you still do this?
For years, I trained somebody in Wales to do it for me, because I was getting guided that I had to teach and I had to put all these programs together. Well, this year, I opened up private sessions once again for the first time in 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I am doing it now. We'll see how long it goes. But usually the animal communication takes over everything else, so I have to watch out. But I do love it. It is a unique and great gift of mine that it's just a great joy to be able to help people connect deeper and understand them deeper.
What about animals who have passed?
Same. I never use the word medium because I never wanted to get in that genre of I'm only speaking to dead people. That didn't really exist. But for my clients, I will speak to their loved ones in spirit. I just have never claimed that separately, so I didn't want to get tied into it. But for me, I identified like 11 different kinds of empaths, and interestingly, I'm all 11. I don't think it's totally normal. I keep trying to tell everybody how normal I am, but
Quit trying to be normal, Kumari. You're not a lawyer anymore.
but I think I am. So when I went down the list of 11, I went, yes, 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 yes. And I went, wow, okay, maybe I'm not, it's not all that normal to have all the bells and whistles open up. But when I opened, they all opened. It took me a while to figure that out, but I can feel planetary energetics, ley lines, portals, all that stuff. So there's a lot more than just tuning into thinking beings in this that I opened up to. So it's been quite a journey. But the animals are the most fun and sometimes the most sad. But people usually that want communication are the best animal, custodians ever. I mean, they're the most caring, the most genuine, the most, so I work with great people. Yeah.
I love this so much. You mentioned early on in the episode that it was kind of a rocky road. How did you continue to trust that this is what you were meant to be doing? And how did you stay the course, as I said earlier?
Well, for a long time, I mean, I quit being a lawyer, but I had no clients and no money. So I was couch surfing, family sister surfing. I was really, I never lived in a car, thank God. But I went through bankruptcy. I went through divorce, 2 divorces. I went through, too many years having no money. And it was only when I got coaching that I really had a sustainable practice. I did the healing for a long time and it was okay, but it seems I was more often in debt than I was, flush. And it wasn't until coaching that I really came to terms with, the money mindset. It had to shift from the healer who should be. I mean, there are a lot of people on the planet who say, if you're a healer, it's a gift from God and you should be giving it away free. And I'm like, well, tell that to my electric company who will turn off my lights because I need to pay some bill. So
Brendan Burchard says, if you don't have the money, you can't sustain the message or you can't sustain the mission.
It's a beautiful quote. Yeah. So I had a lot to learn and I was always guided to charge at the top, always at the top. I didn't know what other people were charging because I always went inside and intuitively got my answers, including what fees to charge. But when I told my Reiki master who lived in Manhattan at the time what I was charging, she's like, you're just starting out. I've been doing it 10 years in Manhattan. And she goes, I think I need to raise my rate. So I was inspiring a lot of other healers, therapists, coaches to really embrace the value. And the thing that really got me was one time I had been getting to charge $500 an hour and I was already at 200 something and I couldn't stop. I was like, oh my God, I can't get that. I can't get that. So that was going on for about a year when I wasn't listening to my intuition. And so here's what happened. I did 2 back-to-back retreats, 5 days total. And I was really exhausted, as I figured I would be. A week went by, I'm still exhausted. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm going, okay, something's up. So I sit for meditation and go, what is up with my energy? I can't reclaim it. And I get this loud and clear message. We've been trying to tell you your rates need to go up. They said, let's say it like this. You have opened up to a garden hose of energy and light and transformational potency. And you're a fire hose, and you're asking people to come hook up with only a garden hose. You are the blockage between the two. And I went, oh my God, I didn't think I was blocking anybody receiving. I was blocking them receiving. That was the awareness that allowed me to shift. And then very shortly after I raised my rates to the 500, I said, this isn't really it either. I want to teach and empower, not just heal. So I created some larger packages where I could take them into all the tools and really empower them so they weren't needing a healer so much as they thought they did. I didn't like people needing me as a healer. Yeah, I didn't. I thought that was me not doing a good job if I was but there are many, many businesses that run on constant clients coming 2 and 3 times a week. We know them. We know who they are.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I like the idea of, or the concept of you being the block to people receiving, because I feel like it aligns with something I say in my coaching containers a lot, which is, you're not asking people to pay for you. You're asking people to pay for themselves, to invest in themselves. And so by investing more, they are stepping into an identity where they see themselves as worth more. And like, that's part of the service that we're offering, is inviting them into an expanded way of being. And it's going to be stretchy, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary, and they might have objections, but that's our job to like hold them through that. And when we race to the bottom, we're taking away that opportunity of transformation for them.
It's beautifully said. And I had an experience where another coach in the mastery level where I was with Kendall, she challenged me. She said, "Oh, Kumari, why don't you just get over your money issues with creating a year-long program for $25,000 for 3 people?" And I said, I've been getting that in my meditations for about 6 months. And Kendall nearly fell off her chair. She's like, "Oh my God, a healer who's going to get that?" But I put together everything I'd ever taught. And included a lot of private retreats with me. And it came to exactly that amount. And I put it out in a week. I put it together and I put it out in a week. I had 2 people sign up in 2 weeks. And the woman,
oh my God.
I know, well, it gets better. The one person, I really was praying for a donation because I was exhausted. And the one person bowed out and said, "Take this in as a donation." I asked for
$25,000 donation.
I did. I got it. Yeah. And the other person I took through the whole year process. And back to what you said, she was in a course I was teaching at the time called Divine Human. It was direct wisdom channeling in 2012. And she stepped into the Embody the Goddess program, the $25,000 one. And the next class, she got in the class and her whole voice changed. She came into a deeper resonance. She used to speak like, and she was totally intuitive and clairvoyant. She would get visions and saw all sorts of energy in visions. And she'd always say, "I don't know if I'm getting this right. I don't know if this is, what I'm seeing." And she'd always discount it. It was always like doubting. And the minute she signed up for the course, we hadn't even started anything. It was literally her, exactly what you're saying, her decision to commit to her, to invest in her, completely changed her resonance. And she showed up completely differently from that day on. Her voice was changed. She no longer kept saying, "I don't know, I think, maybe I'm not." It wiped out all that doubt, and she came into an empowered place. It was, everyone in the course could see it.
So cool.
It's real. It is
real. Yeah. We often talk about how the energetics or the mindset are 80% and the strategy is the 20. And if we could just remember that it starts with, how do I want to be? How am I being? Not what do I need to do? Then the rest gets easier. Yeah. So it's like this woman just got to become someone new by that mere decision.
And to me, it's not a mental exercise of what other people are charging and where I fit in the mix. It's really an inner alignment to what's that sweet spot for my ideal clients.
Yeah.
And it also changes, Kimberly. I'm in a place now where I prayed an intended impact. And then I re-met Natalie last year, to get on board with Transformation Academy. I mean, my impact is huge as a result. And that was my word for the year, impact and legacy. So I'm in a shift as well from, I have to prove, that healers can be paid. Anyway, I'm not in that space anymore. Yeah. And I'm in like, let's empower as many people as I can at this time with the teachings. And I'll still reserve time for the mastery level, but there's an ebb and flow in all of that too. There's not like one right way to be, That's
what I love about this conversation, and so many that I have on this podcast, is like, everyone always asks, should I? And I'm like, I don't know, try it. And then you can change your mind. And like, maybe you do it for this season, and then maybe you do something completely different next season. Like, just go play, go experiment. You literally can't fail unless you quit.
There's an exercise I do. You asked about, how can people improve their intuition? This is the one I added at the very end. I'm like, I was supposed to have it into Natalie, and Transformation Academy was knocking on the door for my module. And I said, I know I should just hand it over, but I want to give you one more. And it's this, I taught it as a mini course, and it's a heart-based intuitive guidance practice. How to come into the heart space and sit and then ask the question, how much to charge? Should it be this? Should it be this? And how to feel into an embodied intuitive sense of that sacred heart space, which is, now they say, sending way more signals to the body than the brain is. The heart is really our center. So, I wanted to add that, and of course she loved it, but that's one of the practices that I share after you clear the chaos, of everyone else's energy, get more aligned into your own, then you can dive in and you have a much more empty chamber to feel into those kind of choices, that are right for you, because there's no one choice that's right for everybody. And that's where a lot of the coaching goes a little south, right? Everybody's
totally. This is the right way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Kumari, this has been so lovely. It's such a treat getting to hear your story and just share your gifts with the TA community. Tell people where they can go find more of you. Where can they get more information?
Well, KumariHealing.com is my main website. You can reach me there. And I have 3 courses on Transformation Academy, the newest one being what we spoke about, the Enlightened Empath. So that's just out today.
So exciting. Well, we will be sure to have all of that linked up in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Like I said, such a treat, very validating as an empath. So I will definitely go check out your course, and I highly encourage everyone who's listening to do the same. Come into the Impact community, surround yourself with other heart-led coaches and entrepreneurs who can validate what you're going through and move through Kumari's Enlightened Empath program, and then go out and make a really beautiful difference in the world.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. It's really awesome meeting a fellow sensitive and empath. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you want to get access to Kumari's powerful program at Transformation Academy, then head over to theprofitablecoach.com/077. There you'll see the link to join the Enlightened Empath. If you are in the Transformation Academy community, it is highly likely that you identify as an empath. It is highly likely that you identify as a highly sensitive person. And so this program, this brand new offering from Kumari, is going to be for you. So head over to theprofitablecoach.com/077. There you'll also get access to our growing, blooming community of incredible coaches called the Impact Coaching Collective. And we have a special offer just for you as a podcast listener. So again, you can find all of that over at theprofitablecoach.com/077.